This is a reading from the Book of Lamentations. I am the one who has seen the afflictions that come from the Lord's anger. He has led me into darkness, shutting out all light. He has turned his hands against me again and again all day long. He has made my skin and flesh grow old. He has broken my bones. My own people laugh at me. All day long they sing their mocking songs. He has filled me with bitterness and given me a bitter cup of sorrow to drink. Peace has been stripped away, and I have forgotten what prosperity is. I cry out, my splendor is gone. Everything I had hoped for from the Lord is lost. Yet I still dare to hope when I remember this. The faithful love of the Lord never ends. His mercy never ceases. The Lord is good to those who depend on him, to those who search for him. So it is good to wait for the Lord, for the salvation from our God. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. The Gospel of John tells us that standing by the foot of the cross of Jesus was his mother Mary. It's interesting that there's no mention of Mary bewailing or lamenting beneath the cross, as there is of the women who accompany Jesus along the way to Calvary. Only her silence is transmitted to us. Mary was silent at the moment of the birth of Jesus, and in John's Gospel, she is silent at the moment of the death of Jesus. Like others around her, she didn't cry out, "My son, you've saved others. Why don't you save yourself too?" She didn't even ask Jesus, "Son, why have you done this to us?" As she did when, having lost him, she later found him in the temple. No, the only posture Mary has underneath the cross is silence. But to interpret her silence under the cross as the language of one who is sad, afflicted, and sorrowful would be incorrect. For while it's true Mary grieved deeply the death of her son, she stood under that cross in hope. She shared not only death with her son, but also hope in the resurrection. On Calvary, she was not just the mother of sorrows, but she is also the mother of hope. She believed from the beginning in the promises of God. She believed that Jesus was the Messiah, the Son of God. St. Paul, in his letter to the Romans, tells us that Abraham believed in hope. He hoped against hope. We can say the same about Mary beneath the cross. She hoped against hope. Do you know what it means to hope against hope? It means this, that without having any reason whatsoever for hope, in a situation that, humanly speaking, is entirely hopeless, one never ceases to hope. One believes more in God than in the evidence of facts presented before them. To hope against hope means constantly acknowledging that God is faithful and trusting that no matter what, God is always there for us. It means that when in vain we've done everything we can to change a difficult situation, something that looks absolutely impossible, we still have something greater to do that will keep us occupied and prevent us from falling into despair. And that is hope, which means patiently enduring to the end. You know, in some unexplainable way, which probably Mary herself was unable to explain, she believed, as she stood at that cross, that God would raise her son even from the dead. This was the great thing that Mary did as she stood there hoping beneath the cross. And she's ready to help us do the same. This powerful reading from Lamentations, what we're listening to is the song of a soul that is in utter desolation. And this soul, this suffering soul, can easily be applied to Mary beneath the cross. She could have said the same words, I am the one familiar with affliction. God has led and guided me into darkness, not light. He has walled me in so I cannot escape. Even when I shout for help, He shuts out my prayer. I thought, I have forgotten what happiness is. My lasting hope in God is lost. And suddenly in this powerful reading, right at this point of utter desolation, there is this unexpected turn, like the last two lines of one of Shakespeare's sonnet. The one who has been lamenting has this surge of hope. The believer says to himself, surely God's mercies are not over, so I shall put my hope in Him. For the Lord will not reject anyone forever. If He bring grief, He will bring mercy. Maybe there is hope. I will put my hope in God. What glory for God and what comfort for us to be able to say these words each time when we are on the brink of despair. I waited for God, then He stooped to me. Psalm 40. Another psalmist says, I wait for the Lord, my soul waits, and in His word I hope. Psalm 130. Another psalm, O Israel, hope in the Lord, from this time forth and forevermore. And finally, in the letter to the Hebrews, we are urged, let us seize the hope set before us. And who is this beacon of hope? Mary, the Mother of God, the one who shows us what it means to hope against hope. So let's turn to Mary, who is our hope, set before us, who stayed close to the cross of her Son, hoping against all hope. Let's turn to her, invoking her powerful name often as Mother of Hope. And if at this moment any one of you out there is distressed or tempted to discouragement, take hope and repeat to yourself the words from the author of Lamentations. Surely God's mercies are not over. I shall put my hope in Him.